This is a podcast from Ingram Micro booth at GITEX 2024 Global. Today we have with me from Trellix, Farhan Ansari, who's a dear friend, and Raghu Subash Narapareddy, who's also I met him recently, and a very intriguing profile on what he works for. And I have known Farhan for many years now. So welcome Farhan and Raghu for the podcast here at Ingram Micro booth, GITEX Global 2024.
Thank you, Ganesh. It's our privilege to be here today.
Yeah, thank you, Ganesh.
Yeah, so we'll start off with a quick round of introduction. So you know me. So I'm the pre-sales solutions engineer at Ingram Micro for Trellix and Sky High. I've been with Ingram Micro for the last 10 years, and excited to be part of this expo here at GITEX. So Farhan, if you could introduce yourself, and then Raghu can introduce himself and a little bit about what you do, what's your role at Trellix, and how you help customers stay safe.
Yeah. Thanks, Raghu. Thanks, Ganesh. Myself, Farhan Ansari. I'm a solution engineer with Trellix. I've been with Trellix almost like 10 plus years,
Forever.
Yeah, kind of started my journey with McAfee India on a channel side and been covering the channel role, channel sales engineer, covering whole of India, doing the enablement sessions for a lot of partners, customers. And for the last 10 years, I've been into a Middle East region, covering multiple different roles. I started off as a pre-sales engineer covering, Qatar as a region. And then I moved to UAE. And in UAE also, I've been working as a pre-sales engineer, and I also for some time worked as a customer success manager. Now I'm again back to, as a solution engineer on a pre-sales role, which is pretty exciting for me. One thing which I liked about Trellix is it's a pure play cybersecurity, a company, and you get a lot of experience working across different product portfolio and securing the customer's environment. So if your customer is into a government sector, federal sector, maybe into enterprise sector, banking and finance sector, oil and gas sector. So you have a whole suite of product which can help the customer across different industry verticals, right? Which is pretty exciting, and you feel really great to be part of such a company which can help the customers, the normal people, and the whole world. We want to ensure that the world is a safer place, right? So we have those solutions which can help the customers and the whole world to be to feel safe and to be secured, right?
Fantastic. I mean, that's quite a journey you have had. I have something similar, but I think I've not always been a salesperson, but knowing you for such a long time, and I didn't know some of the things that you mentioned today. It's good to know. Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you could join us on this podcast.
Thanks, Suresh. Yeah.
So Raghu, it was fantastic meeting you here at GITEX. It was a pleasant surprise that you were from my compatriot, and good to meet you. And it was even more intriguing for me to meet somebody who was on what happens when people have a panic situation, right? So we often meet people from our own community, as in sales and related things, and to some extent I've interacted with a lot of professional services people. And on occasions, I used to have people around me from incident management and response, but at that time I did not realize what they were doing. Still, I became a sales engineer myself when customers used to call me that they've been attacked or hacked. And then I came to know that there is a dedicated team, because I was back in the days an engineer behind the desk doing some level of scripting and coding, and I did not know what's the bigger picture. And not until I moved to sales, right? So now I understand what exactly is incident response after so many engagements that I've had with customers and so on. So please tell us more about yourself and what you do, and any stories to tell. I'm sure there have been a lot of them in your career, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Ganesh. Happy to be here. And likewise, I have the same feeling after meeting you. My name is Raghu, and I have close to 15 years of experience in cybersecurity. I started my career as a security analyst and moved on to various roles. Now for Trellix, it's been close to 18 months for me in Trellix, and I'm covering the EMEA region, delivering the blue team side of engagements, basically incident response predominantly. I also deliver threat hunting engagements, also called as compromise assessments, trying to understand if there's any active adversity in the environment already, which the customer is not aware of,
Wow.
right? So whether there's any artifact specific to historical activity where the adversity was in the environment and did something and
Yeah.
which the customer is not aware of, right?
Okay.
So along with it, I do also deliver tabletop exercises to make sure that the customer is aware of, let's say, it's not that the customer is completely aware of what happened, what they should do
That's
when
right.
there's in breach,
I
right?
mean, most people don't know what they don't know, right? I mean, not most,
Yeah.
all of us don't know what we don't know. So
Yeah, exactly.
until somebody tells us that you have something, okay, I didn't know about that. So it's yeah.
So tabletop exercise actually it's a very good approach for the entities to understand whether the policies they have in place, whether everybody's aware of that, and what to do when there's incident, right?
Yeah.
So instead of getting panic, right, when there's incident, if they are better prepared, for example, okay, so we have the policies in place, and in case if there's a breach, we know how to handle it, right?
Absolutely.
So tabletop exercise actually helps to make sure that you are completely aware of what to do. Basically, it's more like creating muscle memory for the different teams in the environment or for the company, right?
Right.
So it's a good approach to have frequent tabletop exercises at least once in a year
Yeah.
to make sure that you have the muscle memory created what to do when there's an incident.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we usually find that enterprises have such a plan, but when it comes to small businesses, I mean, instant response is probably a far-fetched because they wouldn't probably have a good strategy around security itself in the first place. While it is, I mean, more and more people now, or customers I see, are getting to understand that they need to have some kind of understanding on what to do when something goes bad, and they need to. I mean, the first step would be to sink in the fact that they need to have security. Security is not a luxury anymore.
Yeah.
It never was, but they need to get to a level where they start accepting that, and with that, they also need to be educated about getting a plan in place about incident, right? How to have a plan on how to respond to an attack,
Correct.
what they should be doing.
Yep.
I think this needs to be done for all businesses. I think COVID in that way did some part of it. Because of COVID, a lot of people were in a situation where they were forced to think about a lot of
Yeah.
aspects they never thought about earlier, right? So yeah.
So unfortunately, gone are the days where you deploy certain security solutions and think that yes, I have all the security solutions in place and I'm safe, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the incidents, cybersecurity incident, it's not that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a product, right? So given sufficient resources for the adversary, eventually anybody can be breached, right? So you have to be better prepared. Okay, that's why you have multiple defenses in place, right? Defense in depth. So you have various layers so that even if one of the layer is compromised, you still know that, okay, I have other places where I can detect and minimize the dwell time. Basically, dwell time means like how far the adversary is inside the network before being detected, right? Once you minimize that, you are in a better place to respond and make sure that the damage is limited, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I think that's something that comes after everything is in place. Jumping on to another topic, we'll come back to this. I have more questions on that topic. One other thing that I wanted to discuss before this was about something that I discussed also with many other or women earlier, whom I was meeting with yesterday, Farhan, was about you can be prepared, but things can will go wrong on the other side of the fence. So we had the CrowdStrike outage, which where not only organizations but people were affected at an individual level who had nothing to do with any sort of technology. Probably they did not own a piece of technology, but they were there on in an airport, but they could not travel because of the outage, right? So I was in an airport on the 19th, but fortunately enough, I was in Dubai and I did not face the same kind of problems that other some of my relatives and friends did on the day. So to that effect, what do you think about the incident specifically, and the questions that people have is who are not CrowdStrike customers but do have other vendors? They also had a lot of concerns about could happen to them.
Yeah.
So, as a consultant for Trellix, what is your message to your customers? How what was your experience with that outage? How did you? What was the story you had to tell your customers?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ganesh. And to answer this, we have to just go a little back, into history. And if you look at it, cybersecurity industry itself has grown a long way, right? It has become a mature industry now. Gone were the days, I remember like 15, 20 years down the line, back in the history, in the past, customer used to think about, antivirus or, other security solution as a extra investment from the customer's perspective, organization perspective. But now, since the industry has evolved, the customers have realized the value of a cybersecurity solution. Cybersecurity solution is now acting as an enabler to the business. They are the driving force for the any customers or in business or organizations today, right? So every customers, any CXO level guys that you speak to, that they see the value of the cybersecurity solution. And when they see the value over these years, what cybersecurity is enabling the business, how they, help them to generate a business out of it using these solutions, right? It makes the cybersecurity vendors like Trellix, including Trellix, as one of the responsible, vendor for the companies to drive their business, right? When I talk about the responsible, any cybersecurity vendor has a responsibility to ensure that the customers feel safe, their business are secured, and they are able to drive their business in a secure manner. So responsible security plays a very important role for any cybersecurity vendor. The incident which had happened in the past, with our one of the vendor which you have just mentioned about. One thing we need to make a note of it is that at the heart of it, basically there are two things. There is a kernel space and there is a user space, right? Now, user space is very, kind of a secure, where you can make changes to your, security solution, application, your content updates, regular software updates. You can do that. But the kernel is, very critical, right? And you really don't want to basically, make a changes at the kernel level, without doing a due diligence and making sure that everything looks good. So you have to be very secure. You have to be very responsible when you're delivering any content to your customer, which should not bring down their business. And this is what exactly had happened with the recent incident, where the updates which they had actually rolled out got released to whole wide across the world, and it has touched upon the kernel space, which has bring down all the operating systems across the world. So a lot of industries, including the airlines, the government sector, the hospital industries, even the ticketing systems, right? They were came to standstill, right? So that's a very important thing. As a vendor, you should focus on responsible security, right? So that's a role as a cybersecurity vendor you should play, and ensure that your customer feels secure, and they are safe, and they have a control, to have control as well as the choice to select which updates, which the software they need to basically deploy it after doing the due diligence, the the quality assurance, and the evaluation of those products, right? So that's very important. The responsible security is the key to any such kind of updates.
Okay, so that's a fair point, Farhan. So what you're saying is essentially security vendors need to take care when they're doing modifications to or the updates that they roll out. has less to do with kernel space more frequently than otherwise.
Yeah.
But how does Trellix play in this part? Like, how does Trellix take care of its customers when it comes to the updates, or it could be the deployment approach, or how does architecturally Trellix make a difference in this
That-
aspect?
Yeah. See, there are two things. Of course, when we release any content updates or any future updates to the customer. Okay. First thing is that we do a lot of rigorous testing, quality assurance testing before it is getting released out to the customer. So that's the first level of check that we do internally with our system, with our engineering team before it gets released to the customer. The second thing, we give a choice to the customer, right? Once it's even after the due diligence has been done, the quality assurance of the the content update is done and is released to the world for the customer to upload it. We give a choice to the customer. We give a control to the customer, right? The customer has a choice to basically evaluate it, run it in their environment, probably in a test environment before they actually roll out into a production. That's come also as a part of our best practices that we encourage the customer. The third thing is that most of our updates, what we do it is we do it on the user space. It's only very maybe once in a quarter we release the updates which basically touch upon the kernel, and that too when we do it, we do it with the we certify it with the vendors that we are releasing. For example, we have a certification from the Microsoft for which we are releasing the updates. So we get this certification. So these are the multiple steps or the strategy that we employ it before we release such kind of updates to the customer.
Okay, so to sum it up, so what you're saying is architecturally, Trellix gives customers choices
Right.
about how they want to deploy the technology itself. And from a product perspective, the product is less intrusive in terms of the kernel space, and your daily updates is in the user space. And whenever there is any kernel-based update, it basically is certified and goes through the quality
Right.
check. And still, the customer still gets to have his own testing to do. It's a staggered approach rather than rolling it out or just assume that customer is going to need this. It's
Yeah.
about giving the choice to the customer.
Correct.
Right. So yeah, I think that's a fair point, and also the customer gets to basically choose what is good for him, and probably also that encourages him to do his own internal testing before he signs up for something.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So again, coming back to you, Raghu, since you're more into blue teaming, and probably initially when the incident happened, everybody thought it was some kind of an attack. And then there were clarifications that it was not actually an attack, and CrowdStrike came and said that it's actually something to do with Windows customers who were on a particular version of Windows. But being in the blue teaming as a daily operation for you, did you see any impact for your customers, or how did it impact your life and as an analyst?
Yeah.
Did you see anything at all? Any stories to tell about that?
So what happened with the incident with CrowdStrike? It's not the one which you usually see, but usually what happens is when you want to better defend or protect your environment, you need to go with the mindset of having continuous threat hunting. Okay, so basically what this means is trying to understand if there are any anomalies in your environment. Okay, how can you do this? The better you know about your environment, the better you can defend and protect it, right? So how this happens is trying to understand. So what are all your assets? Okay, what are your internet-facing assets? So how are you monitoring them? Okay, and what are the different network segments you have in place? And let's say if you have subnet to your servers, whether the servers have direct internet access, right? So trying to understand these things and then focus on your business sector. Okay, so based on the business sector your company falls under, you try to come up with using frameworks like MITRE-ATT framework to understand who are the usual adversaries targeting your business sector, right?
Mhm.
Based on that, you can come up with some TTPs, basically the tactics, techniques, and procedures the adversaries use try to create some queries for you, right? And then use that queries to hunt in your environment whether there are any indications that match against these TTPs, right?
Okay.
That's one approach to trying to understand. And something like a stacking approach, right? Where basically what you do is frequency based analysis. So let's say if you want to create a baseline in the environment, right? So you come up, you use the solutions whatever you have in place to bring all the processes in place and group by the process name, right? So
Okay.
if you see certain missions having only a set of missions having a particular process that is not normal in a security environment, right? So that's why you can actually go in phases to understand what is not normal in your environment, right? So the threat hunting basically helps you. I mean, it's all depends on your creativity and imagination. Like thinking like an attacker. Let's say if I get the initial foothold in the environment, what are the usual things I do in the environment, right? So you use those things and search across your environment to make sure that you have the how can you put this like having a red teamer mindset with looting fingers, right? So you use those these techniques and search in your environment to see if there are any anomalies, which actually tells you that okay, if there was any adversity in your environment, whether it is active or this could be a historical activity where that was in the environment, right? So this helps you to better understand the gaps. For example, as in coming back to the earlier discussion I had, right? So the traditional antivirus solutions,
Yeah.
those are not sufficient. So you need to understand from what are the processes that are executing on the endpoint, what are the registry modifications that are happening, network connections. Basically, I'm coming to say that the better you have a solution like an endpoint detection response, so you have better picture about what's going on an endpoint, which you can actually use to perform the threat hunting.
Absolutely. So now, when Raghu mentions that, Farhan, just occurred to me now. Whatever Raghu is talking about, it is usually for customers who have a certain level of maturity in their cybersecurity plan, and they have programs and tools. And then you talk about how to get the best out of that. And we also have customers who are on the path of the maturity. They may be at a level one, or they may have a SOC analyst, a team of SOC analysts, or even a couple of them, which is also they have multiple functions, which is what we find in this region. That you have the security person, you have one security person, a senior person, and then a junior. So I think Trellix has some valuable tools which can offer customers a lot of things that can be offloaded to the tool rather than depending on the skills of the SOC analyst. Would you just shed some light on how Trellix helps customers ease up that load on the shoulders of a SOC analyst? What tools Trellix offers to its customers? How does it make analyst lives better?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I've been saying this, for quite a long time. That a lot of customers, complains about the resource constraint, right? And it's be it in a different industry, you go to a banking sector, or you go to a government sector, or oil and gas sector, or any other, industry. Everywhere there is a resource con. Even if statistically, if you look at it globally, there is a lot of shortage of cybersecurity professionals, right?
Yeah,
And
4 million is the
yeah,
current
exactly.
shortage.
So there is a lot of shortage, and around this way, and getting a good skills resources. Cybersecurity is a very matured company and matured industry, and you are not just relying on one solution. You have a multiple different area where you need to basically cover it, right? You have to think it from the adversary perspective, from what are the different channels through they can target the organizations, right? They have an endpoint channels, they have a network channel, they can get into your environment from the web channels, or maybe from the internet, so on and so forth. There are multiple ways through which they can get into a network, right? Now, in order to secure different channels, of course you need a different technologies, right? Now, we are not saying that you go from and looking at the customers. If you look at it, I have personal experience talking to the customer. Every customer have a mindset, or most of the customer have a mindset to employ different technology from a different vendor, right? Which what does it mean, right? If you're going to have one technology to secure an endpoint from vendor X, and another technology to secure a network from vendor Y, and another Z technology to capture your minutes. Essentially, what you're having are multiple different, vendor, multiple different technology, multiple different interfaces, right? You're going to end up it, right? So you will have a multiple different consoles to secure organization. That's the thing, which means that you need to really have a lot many resources to manage those consoles. Plus, these drawback of having such kind of setup is that these technologies do not talk to each other, right? And this is the gap which is basically identified by the lot of attackers and the hackers, and they identify because these technology do not talk to each other. They do not share the information with each other. They do not share the intelligence with each other, and because of these, attackers basically take advantage of such kind of a gap and the vulnerability, and they can easily bypass and get into your network, right? At Trellix, what we do is right from the inception, I've been with Trellix for more than 15 years now. So right from its inception, even from the architecture, if you look at it, every solution that Trellix has come up with, be it on the endpoint side or data security side, or maybe your application control side or a network side, right? Have a conceptually, if you look at it, or even from practical perspective, have a one console. Trellix believes in Trellix understand the real pain point areas of the customers of having deploying multiple different resources. Instead of that, you will have a one console, one management console, which can help you to have a visibility, control, and manage your endpoint as well as your data sector, as well as your network sector, everything. So you have a you can with Trellix solution, you're gonna have you can cut down on resource requirement. That's one thing. Plus, you can have intelligence sharing across multiple different platforms. So you're secured even if you're some attackers which is coming from the internet, okay, which is being intercepted by your network security appliance, that can share the not just detect that attacks. It can share this intelligence across your email vectors as well. It can share the information with your web security. It can share the information with your endpoint sector as well. So the same attackers trying to get into your network from different channels, we are still protected, right? And all these things are basically done from the single console.
Yeah.
So everything is like interconnected. Everything is like sharing the information and intelligence across it. And we are not just limiting ourselves to our environment. As I said earlier, we as a vendor, we feel that we should be a responsible secretary. We should contribute to the external environment as well. That's the reason we can have an option over the licensing opportunity, which allows us or even the customers to share those intelligence outside of the work. It's like help me help out, right? Help you. So basically, we not just thinking about us as a technology, as a security vendor, we also thinking about securing the world outside of our organizations, right? So this is where the Trellix stands apart from other vendors. We are securing not just us, the other, we think about the other the outside of the world organizations as well, right? So
Yeah.
this is where this starts.
Great. So the other thing, I mean, more specifically, like further to what Raghu was telling and what you just mentioned. So let's say if there is a customer who's on the path of certain level of maturity in the cybersecurity plan, or if they do not have one, which is most of the case, most of the times, right? Trellix has some wonderful tools with, especially on the EDR side, where it offers some AI-related technologies, where even an unskilled SOC analyst can be handheld with these technologies. So all the analyst needs to do is submit a investigation, and
Yeah.
the tool does everything for him, and even gives him the answers to why certain
Right.
things are high severity and why it should be, how it should be treated next, and so on and so forth. I think the EDR and also the insights, for example, to add to what Raghu was mentioning earlier and to what you just mentioned at a high level. So the insights gives specifically very precise information about the techniques, tactics, and
Right.
procedures the adversaries use, which can be covered against a specific industry across the geography and so on.
Right.
And the very recent. So to conclude it, like if you were to say something, Raghu, to you, that request you to say something about uh, what's one or a couple of things the customer essentially must do uh, in order to, if they have the tools, what's the one or two steps they really need to take to strengthen their current posture?
Yeah. The first thing is trying to understand your environment better, like what kind of solutions you have, security solutions you have, and how you can leverage that security solutions properly, effectively, basically. So I have seen in certain instances where the customers are having the best solutions in the industry, but they are not being leveraged to the full extent, right? So it all depends on how you are leveraging the solution as well, right? What kind of modules you have enabled, what kind of data you're getting, and if there are any gaps, how you can fill that gaps, right? So having a complete knowledge about your environment and the solutions you are using, and trying to identify the gaps. There's never like 100% secure, right? As we all know, it's always the cat and rat chase. So you have to be on your toes as a defender, trying to understand what all the other creative methods adversaries can use in your environment and how you can detect and protect against these things. So these are the main things to remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So the adversary is always, I mean, basically he's ahead of us. We know that, and we are always trying to catch up. We're playing catch up with him. So yeah, so those are some really must do things for customers. So thank you for that. And Farhan, to you, I would like to, if we were to take what just Raghu mentioned and say like how Trellix is, what's new with Trellix with respect to those, how Trellix does it better than what we used to do earlier.
Right.
So what's new with Trellix that Trellix has to offer?
Well, I mean, what I heard from Raghu, it's always a cat and chase, rat chase, which is actually true. In a restaurant, the adversaries are always coming up with a new strategy and the new way of getting into your network or targeting the different customers. So we have to basically think it from that perspective, or even ahead of them, right? So what we have been doing it, as a new is that a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence, capability that we are bringing in. In fact, we have already brought in to a lot of, solutions. Like we have this artificial intelligence. We name it as like Trellix Wise, which is basically known as the artificial intelligence of our solutions, right? Which gets embedded to our network solutions, the endpoint solutions. What essentially it basically does is basically helps the customer to take an action in a more easy and convenient way, right? So basically, with this artificial intelligence, customers can ask the questions to our solutions in a very layman language, right? You don't really have to be very pro and to understand, whether your systems are secured enough or not. If it basically tells you that what are the countermeasures that you really need to have. It's assuming that if you have a new attacks which is being targeting particular industry and you happen to be in that kind of industry, you want to understand that what is this new attack being targeted. You can ask our AI about such kind of attacks which is happening across it. It can basically tell you in a very layman language that this is what this attack is all about.
Does it support like natural language programming?
Yeah, it does that. So
Okay.
this is very straightforward. So even your L1 team can type it in a normal English language. What sort of attacks which is happening. Am I safe? Against those attacks. If not, what is the countermeasures? Basically, I need to have it. Where do I have to increase my security? So this sort of a questions that you can ask about Trellix Wise, and it will help you to be secure and take a necessary action even before these attacks hit your organization.
That I think that's really cool because I've seen the Trellix EDR AI,
Yeah.
but I think the with Trellix Wise the Gen AI concept is very well being assimilated into the Trellix products.
Yeah.
So it's great to. I'm really looking forward to have this in, seeing in action in customers' environments, and customers utilize this for getting their posture better.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time today. I think there are a lot of things that we can discuss, and today being last day of GITEX and almost close to drawing the curtains, it's been wonderful having this conversation with you, gentlemen, and it's great to have you here in our booth, participating in with the Trellix booth at Ingram Micro. It was great meeting you all through this week. And in
Likewise.
fact, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us here.